One of the things I think great investors understand is that business models matter. And what I mean by that is the way that a company is structured and what they're developing, the way they're selling it to customers really matters in whether or not a company is going to be successful as an investment long term. Microsoft didn't win in PCs because they manufactured the best computer or they even had the best operating system, but they had the right business model. They were licensing their operating system to computer manufacturers who were pulling pieces together and building millions and millions of computers in the 1980s. That was the right business model for that time. Apple didn't win in the smartphone because it made some sort of magical new technology that enabled the smartphone. They pulled mostly commodity off-the-shelf pieces together to build the smartphone. The way they built it was innovative, but Apple's vertically integrated business model, the ability to put hardware and software together, was the differentiation in the iPhone. So now as we think about products like autonomous driving, I think we need to think more about the business model that each of these companies have. And there's a few companies that I want to talk about today. One is Tesla. Tesla is getting a ton of attention because of the advancements that are happening in full self-driving 12 beta. So there's new advancements coming out to that all the time. The way that that artificial intelligence system is learning, I think is really interesting, really fascinating, the way that they built that and the way that it's going to improve on an iterative basis over time. But does Tesla have the right business model to succeed in autonomous driving? Or is another business model more appropriate for that business? That's what I'm going to dig into today. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video's sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. Let's start with what we know about Tesla today and the way that they're selling FSD, what the current business model is for this product. Let's look at the two ways that they sell it to customers. The first is a one-time purchase, $12,000. Now, this has typically not been transferable. That has been changing over time. So we'll see how that plays out. But that's one option, is you just pay $12,000 along with buying a car and you get FSD features. The other is paying a subscription price. The basic autopilot to FSD capabilities or the full or FSD in general is going to be $200 per month. And enhanced autopilot is $100 per month. So just to put that price into context, as I just pulled up a Model 3 here, they're saying that an estimated lease would be $329 per month, and you could potentially add FSD for another $200 a month. So to get FSD, you're paying somewhere around 60% of the price of getting a vehicle in general, just to kind of put the prices into context. And what sort of capabilities are you getting? I want to really highlight this and hammer this home because this is something I think a lot of people assume that Tesla is going to just release some sort of FSD feature and we're going to suddenly have fully autonomous vehicles driving all over the place. That's not the case. That's not how regulation works. It's not how their testing works. I'm going to look at two states, and I think it's the most important states for Tesla because it has some of the most autonomous vehicles and it's where Tesla has most of its manufacturing capacity. So it's going to be California and Texas. California, there's a ton of permit holders for driverless testing with a driver, okay, with a safety driver. Apple has one of these permits. Beep, I don't even know who Beep is. They have a permit. Bosch, Neo, Pony AI, all kinds of companies. Tesla is one of these companies that has a permit to test self-driving. Is Tesla using that permit? This is the disengagement report. So every company that has a permit in California and is testing vehicles has to report data to the state. How many disengagements are there? How many miles did you drive? Which vehicles are you using? So if we go to the 2023 disengagement reports and just go to this mileage report, how many miles has each company driven autonomously with a safety driver? And then it will break it down per vehicle. So there would be a line per vehicle. I'm going to click on this. It's a lot of data that I'm going to pull up, but I'm going to show you the raw data. You can see here that Apple has dozens of vehicles. This is the name of the company here on the left. AutoX, Cruise, dozens and dozens of vehicles, probably over 100 vehicles. We're going to see Mercedes, Nuro, Waymo's down here again. These companies are in alphabetical order. The company that's missing here is Tesla. Tesla did not drive any miles fully autonomously in the state of California in 2023, safety driver or no safety driver. Now we can go to the other permit holders, driverless testing. This is testing without a driver, not commercial operations, just testing the vehicles without a driver. There's a bunch of companies that have licenses. One company that's missing here is Cruise. Theirs was pulled in October 2023. We'll see if they get back on the roads. Probably won't do that in California, might move that to Texas. But Nuro, Waymo, Zoox, this is the company that's owned by Amazon. Waymo is obviously the one owned by Alphabet. And what they do, there's a number of different tiers in these permits, but you can see that Waymo can drive in light to moderate rain or fog and get up to 65 miles an hour all times of the day and night. Some of these other companies can just do daytime. You kind of move up the curve as regulators get comfortable with how safe you're driving the vehicles. Tesla not doing any of this testing because they don't even have a permit to do driverless testing. Permit holders for deployment, that's the next level. Can you actually have your vehicles on the road in commercial operations? Mercedes-Benz, Nuro, and Waymo. That's it. Those are the only companies with a commercial permit today. Tesla also missing from this list. So as of today, 2024, Tesla's business model is to sell FSD as an add-on to the vehicles that they're manufacturing. They will sell that as a one-time purchase, $12,000, or as a subscription for $200 a month. But they do not even have a permit to test those vehicles in full self-driving. Now, the other one I want to look at is the state of Texas, and Austin is the area that most of this activity is happening. Here's the autonomous vehicles for Austin, Texas, and I got to this through the state of Texas. Here are the known autonomous vehicle operators in Austin. These are the companies that have actually reported, as you need to the city of Austin, the state of Texas. Cruise and Waymo. That's it. Tesla is not on this list. So from a technology standpoint, yes, FSD 12 and the iterations that are advancing right now may be really good. Very possible that those are getting to closer and closer to full autonomous driving. But I want to be really clear with the business model that Tesla is currently deploying. They do not have a robotaxi in development as that we know of, that they've announced. And typically they announce these things a couple of years before they actually launch them to the public. So it looks like they're going to be selling vehicles to people, expecting them to buy FSD. And then if there's going to be any sort of fleet of vehicles, they're going to expect those to be people's individual vehicles. So you go buy a Model 3 for $350 a month, pay another $200 a month for FSD. Now you can allow that vehicle to go out and basically be your own personal Uber, generating money off of that. How many people are going to do that? That is the biggest thing that I question in this Tesla business model right now, because I think that's just crazy to have people that you don't know, that you can't see in your vehicle doing who knows what while you're not there. When I talk about Tesla being a manufacturing company, their economics being driven by manufacturing, it's because I don't see that as a services business that they're actually building or going to launch, not to mention the fact that they're not anywhere near launching FSD with fully autonomous driving based on the testing that they're doing in the current regulatory environment. And the US, Elon Musk has talked about this recently, the US is actually the most lax when it comes to regulations around autonomous driving. So this is what we know about Tesla today. But I want to compare this to a couple of other business models that are moving forward and a couple of the companies that I've talked about here already. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. The first company I'm going to look at is Waymo. This is the subsidiary of Alphabet. They have millions and millions of miles of fully autonomous driving testing. They have operated in California, in San Francisco, in the Los Angeles area, also have operations, commercial operations in the Phoenix area. So they're slowly starting to expand. And what they're doing, they're retrofitting a number of vehicles with these devices that you can see right here. They are not currently anyways making a custom vehicle. But this is a fully autonomous vehicle, no driver involved. They have all of their permits in all of these places, and they are charging for rides. So instead of you buying a vehicle and paying a monthly subscription fee for autonomous driving, they're just saying, don't buy a vehicle at all, just ride with Waymo. It's a little bit like Uber, but fully autonomous. And that's I think one of the reasons that Uber wanted to get into autonomy is they knew that the best economics were going to be not having to pay drivers, just owning this fleet of vehicles. That's effectively what Waymo is building. But there are two other companies who are building a similar model. One is Zoox. Zoox started building this custom vehicle, and you can see a video of this right here. It's a little bit like a mini bus with seats that face each other on the inside, the doors open like a bus, and you hop in and it's just a transportation as a service model, just like Waymo is. They are under Amazon, so a little bit less clear what their business model would ultimately be given the fact that that's their owner, but very possible that Amazon's just able to scale this under the Amazon brand and with their financial backing, a little bit like Waymo. So I think the business model for both of these companies potentially really clear. How it fits in their bigger tech ecosystem is maybe not so much, but very different model from what Tesla is doing. The other one to look at is Cruise. Cruise is operating with these modified Chevy Bolt vehicles, looks very similar to a Waymo vehicle, and the model is very similar as well. So you pay for a ride in the areas where they were operating. Like I said, this is a company that had their permit pulled because of an incident that happened in October 2023. A lot of that information has come out, but this is owned by General Motors, so a little bit less clear exactly what the future is, at least over the next few months for Cruise. What they are developing is this vehicle that you see behind here, which is called the Cruise Origin, and that's been delayed at least for the time being, but looks very similar to the custom vehicle that Zoox was building. So I think what you're seeing here is the business model for Tesla is to sell FSD as a subscription for existing Tesla owners. The business model for these three other companies that I highlighted, Waymo, Zoox, and Cruise, is to turn transportation into a service. So basically Uber, but without a driver. In theory, you could lower costs because not only do you not have to pay a driver, these vehicles can run 24/7, they can be custom built, run on electricity. So theoretically, there have been estimates that we can get down to about $1 per mile for each of those rides. And that would really be transformative in transportation, but a very, very different business model from what Tesla is implementing. And the thing that I question from Tesla's standpoint is how they move beyond the current model. I know that a lot of people have talked about them licensing full self-driving FSD to other automakers. I think that is just crazy. First of all, a lot of these automakers have their own full self-driving technology or advanced cruise control technology. There is nothing that says today that Tesla is going to be able to sell FSD and actually allow you to not drive your vehicle at all. I think some of these other companies and their third-party studies show this are actually closer to that fully autonomous driving than Tesla is. We'll see how that plays out. But the other thing is if that's where the value is and that's where the margin is, why would other manufacturers give that margin to Tesla when they could potentially partner with a Waymo or a Cruise or a Zoox? There's a lot of other companies building autonomous driving technology that are arguably ahead of Tesla in this business. And if this is where the ultimate value is, I don't think manufacturers are going to want to give up that value to a direct competitor like Tesla. Something like the electric vehicle plug, which Tesla developed and now is being adopted by a lot of other manufacturers, a very different thing. They are not paying Tesla to use that plug design. That is a standard that Tesla developed, and they're basically allowing everyone else to use it because it's good for everyone, Tesla included, for everybody to be on the same charging standard. So you don't have two charging networks being built, one for Tesla drivers and one for everybody else, which, by the way, as the trends are going, the market share for Tesla is going to be under 50% in the US. So it was good for everybody to be on that same standard. I don't think the same thing is going to play out with FSD. But the other potential model is for Tesla to build their own robotaxi. And if Tesla builds a robotaxi at scale and they build something like what we've seen from Cruise and Zoox, why in the world would you buy a Tesla? And this is, I think, the fundamental challenge is if they move to this fully disruptive business model, where they turn this autonomous technology into transportation as a service, like Waymo's doing, like Cruise is doing, like Zoox is doing. What does that do to their manufacturing business, which is where they make 100% of their profit today? It would absolutely decimate that business. And that's where I think Tesla is ultimately in a catch-22 for a company like GM, where Cruise is 100% upside. The core business of GM has a market cap of $50 billion. It's totally upside if Cruise is successful and that becomes a $1 trillion business. If Tesla is successful in building a robotaxi business and that becomes a $500 billion or $1 trillion business, well, that's already priced into the stock. And so this is where I think you see business models really matter, valuation really matters for investors. And this is why I question Tesla being the disruptive force in autonomous driving. We don't see evidence that they are actually testing or operating fully autonomous vehicles. So we have no idea whether they are ahead or way, way behind, what their actual disengagements look like, how safe they are, because they don't report any of that data to regulators like all of these other companies do. I question whether the business model of selling FSD to individual people and then hoping that they build a network of ride-sharing vehicles for you, I don't think that that's going to be successful, especially if these other companies continue to scale their transportation as a service model. So lots of questions for Tesla, not only from a technology side, but from a business model perspective. And I encourage everybody to think about whatever you think the future is for Tesla. If you're bullish on Tesla as a company and FSD as technology, think through what that business model looks like in the future. And could you get somebody that you know to follow that business model? I think transportation as a service makes a ton of sense. I don't want to own the vehicles in my garage. I would much rather just pay $1 a mile for an autonomous vehicle to come pick me up anytime I need to go somewhere. If you ask me to buy a $30,000, $40,000 vehicle, pay a monthly fee to get autonomous driving, and then send that vehicle out unsupervised to go pick people up to make a few dollars on the side, not interested at all. Maybe that's just me. Maybe there would be millions of people who would be interested in that. Well, we'll see how this plays out. And I encourage everybody to just think through the technology piece and the business model piece, because regulators are involved, customers are involved, and Tesla is a manufacturing company. So they need to keep those cars coming off of the production line. So a lot of unknowns, I think, for Tesla, that a lot of people, based on what we actually know in the field. But what do you think about FSD and Tesla's model? Leave your comments in the comments section below. Love to hear from you, even if it's very different from what I think. This is what makes markets. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing, everybody. See you here next time.